I hear this question in so many forms, and I understand the anxiety behind it. I truly do. It's a question that seems to underpin our entire civilization, our entire way of being. Without conflict, you ask, without this constant struggle, this burning desire to improve, to get better, how can there be any progress in the world, either materially or socially? Isn't it this desire for change, this divine discontent, that supplies the motive force for all our achievements? It's a powerful question because it reflects the engine that we have all been taught to run on. We are a culture of outreach, of striving, of achievement, and we have built monuments to this idea of progress. You're asking, and it's a very fair question, if we just accept what is, if we stop this incessant striving, won't everything just stagnate? Won't we just decay? It's a question that deserves our full attention. But before we can even begin to answer it, I feel we must first investigate the assumptions hidden deep within the question itself. We use these words, progress, change, improvement, so easily, but do we truly understand what we mean by them? And most importantly, when you speak of self-improvement, what is this self that you are seeking to improve? I am not trying to be difficult, but I am asking you to look with me to investigate this together. Because if we don't understand the nature of the self, all our efforts to improve it may be nothing more than a profound and perhaps tragic waste of energy. So, what do we mean by improving ourselves? When you sit quietly, when you look at your own life, what does this phrase conjure for you? Does it mean improving your selfishness, making it more clever, more refined, so that you can navigate the world and get what you want with less friction and more social acceptance? Does it mean improving your deceit, learning to wear a more convincing mask at the office or in your relationships? Does it mean improving your hypocrisy, becoming more adept at professing high ideals while your actions, thoughts, and secret desires run in another direction entirely? Are you seeking to improve your anger, to manage it better, to give it a more acceptable face, or to improve your anxieties and sorrows, perhaps by finding more sophisticated distractions, more compelling escapes, so that you don't have to feel their bite so sharply? Is this what we mean? Or perhaps is it something more material? When you say self-improvement, do you mean getting more money, which is obviously necessary for survival in this world, or getting a better position, more power, more prestige? Do you mean acquiring more physical comfort, a larger house, a faster car? We can see the appeal of this, and of course, one must have food, clothing, and shelter. But is that the entirety of this grand self-improvement project we are all engaged in? To answer this, we must, absolutely must, go deeper and ask, what is the self? What are you? You have a name given to you by others. You have a form, a body, a particular way you look, a shape that you carry through the world. You have a physical appearance. But apart from that, what are you? You are you not? All that you have been taught in your school, your college, your university if you are lucky, or perhaps unlucky enough to go through all that. You are the impressions left upon your mind, upon your brain, by your specific environment, your culture, your family, You are your tradition, whether you accept it or rebel against it, which is just another form of being bound by it. You are the sum total of all that which actually is. And what is that? It's your inventory of beliefs, your collection of fears, your hidden and not so hidden hypocrisies. It's the voice that says one thing and does another. It's your silliness, your pettiness, your jealousies, your ambitions. All of this, surely, is what we call me, I, the self. Or do you object to this? Perhaps you think you are something much more than that. Perhaps you have been taught or you have come to believe that you are a super consciousness, a higher self, an Atman, a divine spark, something permanent and transcendent, trapped within this mortal coil. But I would ask you to look at that idea as well. Where did that idea come from? Is that super consciousness, that higher self, not also a result of thinking, thought, seeing the messy, contradictory, and often painful reality of the actual self, the self of fear, greed, and hypocrisy finds it unpleasant? It wants an escape. And so thought projects an idea of something better, something pure, something eternal, and then it identifies with that projection. It calls it the real me. But this too is just another movement of thought, another image created by the mind for its own comfort and security. So when we look honestly, without illusion, what we find is this: the self, whether it's the lower self or the projected higher self, is the entire movement of thought. It is the bundle of memory, experience, tradition, and belief. It is the continuous stream of consciousness, forever chattering, judging, fearing, and desiring. Now, if that is the self, this complex, contradictory structure built by thought and time, I ask you again, what is there to improve? Can you improve your selfishness? Can you improve your agony? Can you improve your sense of despair or your deep-seated fear? You can certainly cover it up, you can manage it, you can become more clever at hiding it, but can you improve it? A prisoner, by polishing the bars of his cell, does not become free. He only becomes a more diligent prisoner. What is possible, surely, is not improvement of the cell, but freedom from it. What is possible is to be free of all that completely. I can't improve my selfishness, but it is possible to be free from selfishness. I can't improve my agony, but it is possible to end agony. This is a radically different proposition, isn't it? It shifts the entire focus. The question is no longer how do I become a better version of myself, but is it possible to be free from the self altogether? This is not a mere play on words. It is the most fundamental question we can ask. Because as long as we are trapped in the framework of improving the self, we are still operating within the field of conflict, desire, and hypocrisy. We are just rearranging the furniture inside the prison. So let's return to that first urgent part of your question. The idea that without this constant struggle, this desire to improve, there can be no progress. We've looked at the self that wants to improve and found it to be a bundle of thought and memory, and we've seen that improving selfishness is just making it more clever. But what about this larger idea of progress in the world? It's true, isn't it, that we have progressed from the bullock cart to the jet and now even beyond the jet to instantaneous digital communication? That is an undeniable advancement, a change from one state of limited communication and travel to an extraordinary, almost magical speed of communication. This is a fact, a progress in one specific technical direction. But I must ask you to look at this with me, to look at it very, very carefully. We have also progressed, have we not, from killing one another with an arrow or a club to being able to kill millions, tens of millions, indeed all of humanity with an atom bomb, with biological weapons, with engineered viruses. If you call the first example progress, then to be honest, to be brutally logical, you must also call the second example progress. It is an advancement, an improvement in the technology of killing. Our capacity for destruction has progressed just as much as our capacity for communication. And what about social progress? Society is, after all, simply the relationship between human beings, the relationship between you and me. Has that progressed? We have created complex legal systems, and at the same time, we have become extraordinarily cunning in finding ways to go around those laws, to cheat on our taxes, to exploit one another in ways that are technically legal but are inwardly, morally corrupt. The richer one becomes, the more sophisticated the forms of avoidance and cunning. We see this every single day in our headlines. We have built a global society through the internet, a tool we claimed would bring humanity together. And what have we used it for? We have used it to build digital tribes that shout at each other, to amplify our anger, our tribalism, our hatred. We use it to cultivate envy, to present curated false images of our lives, to compare and to despair. We have progressed from the village herd mentality to a global herd mentality where we seek followers and likes as a new digital form of psychological security. So I ask you, in all seriousness, where is this social progress? It seems we are just as greedy, just as envious, just as violent and tribalistic as we were thousands of years ago, but we now have far more efficient and dangerous tools to express that same unchanged consciousness. This brings us to the real heart of the matter, doesn't it? We can see technological progress for good or ill, but is there any psychological progress at all? Are you, in your heart, in the deep, quiet, secret places of your mind, fundamentally different from someone who lived 5,000 years ago? Are you less frightened? Are you less insecure? Are you less prone to anger, to jealousy, to the desire for power and status? Or are you, like them, still consumed by fear, still seeking comfort in beliefs, still finding security in tribes, in flags, in gods, in the accumulation of wealth? When we are honest, brutally honest with ourselves, we see that there has been no psychological progress whatsoever. And this idea, this cherished, prized idea of progress, is intimately, inseparably bound up with the idea of time. Progress means time, does it not? It means a movement from what I am to what I will be or should be. It implies a transformation of myself from this state to that state, and that transformation, we believe, must take place over a duration. We are coming to something absolutely essential now, which is the nature of time itself. Now, obviously, there is time by the watch. There is chronological time. The sun rises in the morning and it sets in the evening. That is today. And tomorrow there will be another sunrise. That is time. For a plant to grow from a seed to a flower, it needs time. For a baby to mature into an adult, that requires time. For me to learn a new language, to acquire a skill, to become a carpenter, an engineer, or even, heaven forbid, a politician, I need time. I must study, I must practice, I must accumulate knowledge, and this is a process in chronological time. This is natural, it is obvious, it is functional, but, and this is the question that I believe can shatter the whole structure of our confusion. Is there time at all inwardly? Is there psychological time? We have accepted it as a fact, haven't we? We have accepted that psychological progress is just like learning a skill, it requires time. We accept without question the idea of hope, which is the very essence of psychological time, the hope that tomorrow I will be better, tomorrow I will be happier, tomorrow I will find peace. All our religions, all our therapies, all our self-improvement strategies are based on this idea of a psychological tomorrow. But let's put this to the test. Let's take a very real, very concrete example. I need time to learn a language, yes, but to be free of violence, to be free of my anger, my greed, my envy. Does that need time? Please, don't just accept or reject what I am saying. Investigate this with me. Now, I am violent. That is what is. I have an ambition to become non-violent. That is what should be. And this movement from what is to what should be, from I am violent to I will be non-violent, is what we call progress. And we believe it requires time. But does being free from violence actually require time? Or is the idea of time the very thing that prevents freedom? Let's look at this difference together, because it is the most vital and perhaps the most difficult thing to grasp. You see, to become something requires time, whereas to be free does not. I am violent and I want to become non-violent. That is the pattern, the formula that we are all taught. Our brains are deeply, profoundly conditioned to this sequential logic, this idea of gradual progress, because it's the only way we know how to function in the world of skill and material. But when we apply this same logic to our psyche, to our inner world, something goes terribly wrong. We are asking, you and I, whether it is possible to be instantly, immediately free from violence without the intervention of this entity we call time. Now, please, don't simply agree or disagree. Don't say it's possible or it's impossible. That is just another conclusion, another form of closing the door to inquiry. Let's think together. Let's see together. If you say, I will be free of violence gradually, what does that actually mean? It means you are taking time to be free, and during that interval, during that period of gradual change, what are you? You are still violent. A man who says I am trying to be non-violent is, by his own admission, a violent man, and he is sowing the seeds of violence every single day while he's trying. It's a terrible contradiction, isn't it? It's a form of hypocrisy that we have all accepted as virtue, the virtue of striving. It's like saying, I will stop being at war, but first I must engage in a few more battles. In this way, because you are still being violent during the interval, there is no end to violence. The tomorrow when you will be non-violent never arrives, because your today is always violent. Do you see this? Do you see the logic of it? So, this gradual approach is a fallacy. It is a trick the mind plays on itself to avoid fundamental change, to postpone the revolution. It allows us to feel good about ourselves, to feel that we are working on it while continuing the very pattern that causes such misery. It's the same pattern as saying, I'll start my diet on Monday, which gives us license to overeat all weekend. The trying becomes a permanent state of being, a comfortable illusion that we are making progress, when in fact we are just perpetuating the problem. Therefore, the real question, the only question that has any meaning, is this: is it possible to be free of violence instantly? Is it possible to end it completely without this entity called time? We are saying that it is possible, but only when we understand something very, very deep about the nature of observation. When you observe your own violence, when you feel that flash of anger or that surge of defensiveness, how do you observe it? What is the relationship between you and the violence? Isn't it true that you, the observer, see violence as something separate from you? You say, I am here, the thinker, the observer, the one who wants to change. And that is violence, this bad thing, this ugly feeling that I must control, suppress, or get rid of. So you have created a division, a duality between you and it. And what happens when there is a division? There is conflict. The you, who is the observer, the sensor, is now at war with the violence which is the observed. You struggle with it, you fight it, you try to rationalize it, you try to find its cause, all in an effort to overcome it. This very struggle, this internal battle, is the continuation of violence. You haven't ended violence at all. You have just introduced a new, more subtle form of conflict. But what if, and please follow this closely, what if you see the truth of the matter? Is anger, when you are angry, different from you? You are anger. You are greed. You are violence. It is not that you, a separate, pure entity, are observing this external thing called violence. No. The very observer who says, I am violent and I must not be, he is violent. The observer is the observed. The thinker is the thought. The one who desires to be non-violent is part of the very structure of violence, because he is using will, desire, and time to achieve a result. I don't know if you are following this, but it is absolutely crucial. When you are greedy, you are greed. When you are envious, you are envy. There is no you separate from that state. We have divided it because it gives us comfort. It gives us the illusion that we, the higher self, can act upon and change the lower self. But this division is an illusion, a trick of thought. So, what happens if you see the truth of this? What happens when you realize in the very moment of anger that you are anger, that the observer is the observed? In that instant, because there is no division, there is no conflict, there is no you fighting anger, there is no struggle to overcome it, no suppression, no escape. The observer, with his agenda, his desire to change, his condemnation, simply disappears. He is absent. And what is left, there is only that state, the state of what we call anger. And because the observer is absent, because you're no longer fighting it or judging it, you can, for the first night time, observe it with your total energy, with your complete, undivided attention. When you give this choiceless, non-judgmental, total attention to the fact of anger, without the observer creating a conflict with it, you will find that the thing itself completely dissolves. It cannot exist under that light of pure attention. You can try this for yourself, or rather, not try, forgive me for using that word, but do it. The next time you feel anger or jealousy or fear, watch. Watch how the mind instantly creates the I who dislikes it, the I who wants to get rid of it. See this division and see that this division is the conflict. Then realize that you are that feeling, there is no you separate from it. And in that realization, the division ends. There is only the feeling itself, and you, with all your energy, simply watching it, without a word, without a judgment. In that stillness, in that silence, it withers away instantly, without the poison of time. This then answers our question about progress. Outwardly, physically, progress from the bullock cart to the jet exists. But socially, which is about our relationships, and psychologically, which is about our inner state, the idea of progress through time is a dangerous illusion. To understand the nature of our relationships, to see the fact of our greed or violence, and to be free of it. Does this require time? Or does it require an immediate perception, an insight, a flash of understanding that shatters the old pattern instantly? This insight, this immediate perception, is the only thing that transforms, and it has nothing whatsoever to do with time. This realization that freedom from violence or greed is not a matter of gradual progress, but of an immediate, timeless insight, naturally brings up another profound question, one that I hear you asking. If this transformation is not a product of time, then how does it take place? What is the agency of this change? If I cannot gradually work towards it, then I must make it happen now. Surely, you might think, this transformation must be brought about through the focused, determined action of will. Or, if not by my own will, then it must come from some outside agency, from God, from a guru, from some higher power that will intervene and bring about this change within me. This is the corner we have backed ourselves into, isn't it? We see only two possibilities, either my effort or another's effort. So let's, you and I, investigate these two possibilities, this will and this outside agency, to see if either of them holds the truth. First, what is this will that we prize so highly in our culture of achievement? When you say, I will do that, or I will be different, or I will stop being angry. What do you actually mean by that word? Let's think it out together. When you look closely, is will not simply the expression of a very strong, very focused desire. You desire a particular outcome, to be non-violent, to be famous, to be enlightened, and so you muster all your energy, all your focus, and you call this will. But at its root, it is desire, isn't it? Will is the summation of desire, desire that has gathered itself and given itself a direction. So, to understand if will can transform us, we must first understand the entire nature of desire itself. But before we go into that, let's look at that other comfort, that other escape, the outside agency. If we feel our own will is too weak, or if we have tried and failed and become cynical about our own efforts, we turn outward. We look for a leader, a savior, a guru, a sacred book, a system, an ideology, or we project a God who will, if we pray correctly or believe correctly, do the work for us. You have had these outside agencies for millennia, have you not? Humanity has had an endless procession of leaders, authorities, popes, priests, and so-called sacred books, all putting pressure on you, demanding that you change, giving you rules and commandments. Has all of that helped you? Has all that authority, all that education, all that pressure actually helped you to be transformed? Let's be factual. Let's be honest with ourselves. For a change, you are what you are now after all these millennia of outside agencies. You are still miserable, confused, uncertain, insecure, suffering, anxious, and going through agony. Nothing and nobody has helped you. Therefore, you have to find out a different way, which is to not rely on anybody, including the person who is speaking to you now. I am not helping you. I want to be very clear on this. I am not your leader, not your authority. I am saying help yourself by looking at yourself. We are investigating together as two friends, but I am not pointing out a path for you to follow. The moment you follow, you are lost because you are just substituting one outside agency for another. We believe in God because we are frightened. If you are very, very honest, you will see that God is the perfect security, the ultimate outside agency. I am uncertain, I am insecure, I am afraid of death, so my thought projects a principle, a symbol, an idea of something permanent, all powerful and all loving, and in that image I take refuge. That image gives me a great sense of security. But that God, that image you have made, it is a projection of your own thought, a creation of your own fear. So let's put aside the outside agency because it has failed. And let's put aside will for a moment and look at its root, desire. What is desire? You desire a house. You desire a better position. You desire a woman or a man. You desire success, money. You desire to be popular, to be famous, to have thousands of followers on your social media, which is just the modern day version of wanting to be a saint or a king. You desire to be a hypocrite to get by, and you desire to find heaven. This whole complex of wanting, wanting, wanting. What is it? The moralists and religions have all said suppressed desire is a bad, ugly, worldly thing. Renounce it. But we are not going to do that. We are not saying it should be suppressed, nor are we saying it is a good thing. We are simply, without judgment, going to find out what it is. How does it arise? This requires a little quiet attention. Let's trace it very simply. You would agree, wouldn't you, that desire is part of sensation. It is the response of the senses. This is normal, healthy. I see that house. There is a visual seeing, a perception. Then, perhaps, I go in, I have contact with it, I touch the walls. From this seeing and contact, a sensation arises. This is a lovely house or an ugly house. This is the normal biological sensory response. If I had no seeing, no contact, no sensation, I would be paralyzed. I would be dead. So, sensation is vital, is part of life. Now, what happens next? This is the most important step in the whole chain. There is seeing, there is contact, there is sensation. Then what takes place, which brings about desire? My question is clear, isn't it? Look at your own mind. Seeing, Kontakt, Sensation. Then thought comes in. Thought says, I wish I had that house. That is the moment. That is the critical juncture. It is when thought identifies itself with the sensation and with the object of the sensation, that house, that desire begins. Thought creates the image of you living in that house. It creates the image of the comfort you would have, the security you would feel, the prestige you would gain. It projects a future of you plus the house. It is this image, created by thought, that is the beginning of desire. Do you question this? See it for yourself. It is the seeing, the sensory response, then thought creates the image of you in relation to that sensation. And it is that image making that fuels desire. I see a beautiful person. That is sensation. Thought then creates the image of being with that person, the pleasure, the companionship, the security, and desire is born. I see a beautiful tree on a piece of land. That is sensation. Thought then creates the image of me owning that land with that tree in my garden. And desire has taken over. Now, if will is the energy of this desire, can desire possibly bring about transformation? Transformation of what? Transformation from what is my state of confusion to what should be a state of clarity. But what is that state of clarity? It is just another image, isn't it? It is another image created by thought based on what it has read, what it has been told, what it finds pleasurable. So when you use will desire to transform, you are merely chasing another image created by thought, just as you were chasing the image of the house. You haven't escaped the prison of thought at all. You have just redecorated it with spiritual goals. So we see, you and I, that this tremendous effort we make to transform ourselves is simply desire. And we've seen that desire itself is born in that critical moment when thought takes a simple, pure sensation, the seeing of a beautiful house, a tree, or a person, and creates an image of me possessing it, me enjoying it, me gaining security or pleasure from it. The will to be non-violent is just desire chasing the image of non-violence, an image created by thought which is frightened of the pain and chaos of its own violence. So the will and the desire are not the solution. They are the very continuation of the problem, the very engine of the self that is trapped in conflict. You have an image of what transformation is, and you desire that, you move towards it. But that transformation is just another projection, another idea. And so you are not transforming at all. You are just moving from one idea to another, one image to another, forever within the prison of your own thinking. This leads to the most subtle and perhaps the most dangerous trap of all, which that gentleman in the audience once brought up, the desire to obtain something spiritually. Oh, we think this is a lovely idea, a noble pursuit. We have seen perhaps the vulgarity of chasing money, power, and fame, so we renounce that. We say, I am not interested in the world, I am interested in God, in truth, in enlightenment. But I ask you, please look at this with me. What is the difference? It is the exact same mechanism, only now it is dressed in holy robes. It is still the self, the me, that says, I am this confused and I want to become that enlightened. It is still thought, creating an image of a future state, an image of peace, of bliss, of sitting next to a guru, of merging with the universe, and then it uses desire, which it now calls devotion or willpower, to achieve that state. It is still the me seeking a result, seeking a reward, seeking the ultimate permanent spiritual security. It is the very same movement of becoming, of acquiring, of possessing. The man who desires $1,000,000 and the man who desires enlightenment are both driven by the self which wants to get something, to be something more. This is not transformation. It is the absolute peak of self-centeredness, just disguised as piety. So, if will is not the way, and desire, even spiritual desire, is not the way, and outside agencies are an illusion that have never ever worked, then we are left with a tremendous question. Aren't we? This whole structure of will and desire is based on the movement of cause and effect. We live our entire psychological lives based on this. I do this, the cause, in order to get that the effect. I will be good cause so that I will be rewarded either by society or in the afterlife effect. I will practice, I will meditate cause because I want to achieve peace of mind effect. I am nice to you cause because I want you to be nice to me effect. Our whole consciousness is a process of motive, a movement from a cause to an effect, all in the service of the self, gaining pleasure or avoiding pain. Now I am asking you, and please, this is a very, very serious question, and perhaps the most important one we can ever ask. Can we find out if there is a state of mind in which there is no cause? Can we find out if there is an action that is not born from a motive, not seeking a result? Can you live without a why? This is the real meditation, not all the silly, repetitive, mechanical stuff that goes on. To really sit and inquire with all your heart, can I live without cause? What does this mean? It means finding out for yourself if you can act without seeking a psychological reward. We all want something. I want to be something. I want to get money. I want to be secure. I want to be loved. This is all cause, all motive. And I ask you, what about love? Is love a cause? Is love a motive? Is love a result? If I say, I love you because you are beautiful, or because you are kind to me, or because you give me security, or because you sleep with me, or because you are my child, is that love, or is that a transaction? Is that not just a form of barter, a subtle contract of mutual gratification? Because implies a cause. And if the cause is removed, if you are no longer kind to me, if you no longer give me security, then my love disappears. Huh? So that was not love. It was a trade. This is a very complex problem. And I'm not giving you an answer, but I'm asking you to look at it, to find out for yourself, to find out if there is an action without a cause, to find out if there is a state of love which has no because, which is not a result, which is not a motive. It is just a state of being. When you find that, if you can find that, and I am not saying you can or you can't, then perhaps that is the only true transformation. It is not a becoming, it is not an improvement of the self. It is the total ending of the self, the ending of the self-centered movement of cause and effect, of reward and punishment. And then perhaps there is a state in which the brain, the mind, the heart is eternal because it is no longer caught in the chain of time, of cause and effect. Please think about this. Don't accept or reject it. Just find out